time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show with Phil Mullinax and JC Sherwood.
So, how many of you would say you speak English fairly well, but with some difficulty?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You play to win the game.
Now, let's take it away, JC and Phil.
Welcome in, everybody. It's Inside the Gamecocks, the show. You will notice that we've moved the second letter of the host's name up one again to JB. Jamie Bradford in for us this morning. How you doing this morning, Jamie? Thanks for filling in for JC.
Yep. Greetings and good morning. Hope everybody's well. Starting off which I think is generally like the first week back of the new year. It's that last week was not the first week of the new year. There were still so many people out not working and slowly getting back into things. I was getting no responses for the most part throughout the week on emails, except for I'll get back to you next week.
Yeah,
and,
right.
and so here we go. But I do know who was working last week, and that was Shane Beamer and his staff at South Carolina. I'm certainly going to go over a lot of that today. JC will hopefully be back in tomorrow. But as always, no issues here popping in to help get this thing moving for the next couple of hours. So I hope everybody will stick around and have some fun. And there's certainly a lot to get to, including the national championship to play tonight at 7:30 and not like 8:30 or 9 o'clock like they've been known to do in the past.
Gosh, yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, get it done a little early. I guess that's the advantage of having it out on the West Coast, though, right?
Yeah, So, all right. So let's, did anybody ever get confirmation on this whole tailgating thing? So can they or can they not tailgate there, and why?
Yeah, the last I heard it was still a no, but I don't know why they would say no. And like I said the last week, it was like, well, they can't put all 40,000 of us in jail.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I figured. I mean, the Georgia Cats are going to no state law in California is going to stop them from drinking before the game publicly or privately. So I'm not sure. I just don't know. Like, is that a law out there? Is it an ordinance? Is it something that was just put in place for this? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, you would think there'd be some for the NFL teams, when they rotate through, but who knows? I don't know. It's a completely different world out there on that coast, JB.
Yeah. There's no doubt. We won't stretch that into politics, but obviously they do things a little bit differently out in California than the rest of us do, seemingly everywhere else around the country.
Right.
But,
yeah.
it's just kind of the way that it works out. But the Nana Sports chat box is up and moving, and tell your friends and plug in what you've got to say, and we'll get it into the program as well. It's pretty much just Phil and I today. So the more the merrier here with anything with the national championship. Will TCU cover that? I've seen 12.5, 13. I've even seen 13.5, but that was a couple of days ago. I'm not sure that I've seen it today, but mostly between 12 and 13. Obviously, we'll get to the pair of commitments that Carolina got this weekend from the transfer portal in areas of need, and they're expecting more here in the coming days as well, as Shane Beamer continues to try to get this 2023 roster put into place. But don't hold your breath. It'll still be a few months before that is completely done. As we all know, transfers will come and go, and then they'll come and go again after spring practice and at the end of the semester. So those things are still in play, but we'll get to all that. Phil, basketball team had a terrible day on Saturday against Tennessee. I was on this morning with Bill Gunner on 107.5 the game, and he did play a clip of what Lamont had to say, and when your head coach is questioning whether you have or have not quit, that is not good any way you slice that pie. So certainly going to get to that here in just a little bit. Still awaiting final confirmation on Juice and Spencer Rattler as to whether they'll return to the University of South Carolina next year, although things continue to kind of trend in the way I think a lot of us have seemingly thought it would go for a while, that they will be back, but just no final confirmation there. Although last night Tony, I believe, dropped in there, or Hale, I think it was Hale, who did drop a little nugget on the Big Spur, saying that at the team's first meeting of the season, both of them were in attendance. Generally, that is a pretty good sign, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. When you get the new guys coming in and they're still a part of the crew, then that's exactly what you're kind of hoping for. I think, the big portal additions of some offensive linemen are also kind of pointing in that direction too, because Spencer's not going to he's not going to be back there with a bunch of young guys, trying to put it together with no playing time and risk his, the physical side of him making it through a season fully.
Yep, no question. Also, of course, we'll get into some of the coaches' contracts and stuff today, because that news came out late last week and was kind of fussed and discussed throughout the weekend. But to your point on that, I think one of the things that's interesting to me to follow, and this is why I've kind of been like, hey, everybody, just kind of just pump the brakes a little bit when it comes to running backs and wide receivers and things of that nature. Looking in the transfer portal, they do need a tailback. We all know that. And it probably help to go, if you've got one out there that you can find, it'd be nice to go find another wide receiver to kind of complement that room, because you just seem to never have enough. I mean, Carolina every year has a major injury at wide receiver, it seems like. And, this year was no different once again at the end of the season with Josh Vann going down in the Clemson game. So it's always good to have a boatload if you can get them. But my point, though, Phil, is let's say we catch wind this week, the news comes out that Spencer is coming back to South Carolina, that's going to accelerate some transfer portal stuff for you.
For sure.
There might be a holdout or two that they are already discussing with, and man, I'd really like to be a Gamecock. And as much as folks like you and me and Will and Brian and Clint and the Twisted Rooster and everybody else that's in the chat box over here, as much as we all want to think that these kids love the university the way that we do, many of them don't. And that is not exclusive just to South Carolina. That's how it is. And so kids are looking for what's best for them. Now it turns out they become fans of the place they play, of course, but they're looking at what is best for me, especially if you're a transfer with 1 year, maybe 2 years left, trying to get into the NFL, trying to, create that value, that stock. You want to go play somewhere where there's a good quarterback, there's a good system, and those type things. And if Spencer Rattler is the guy, well, that's a place that is going to all of a sudden, you might open that door all of a sudden because he's going to be there if South Carolina contacts you. No disrespect to anybody else in that quarterback room. That's not what I'm saying. But if he isn't and they contact you, it might be a little bit more of a push for the staff to be able to get you to want to come visit campus and those type things. So when it comes to the portal, Phil, I think a lot will still be – it's still TBD, at least on the offensive side, based on what happens with Rattler.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the things now, and as we get closer to the official signing day, not the early signing day, I think there's a bit more pressure, just on the staff itself to, have a decision made either way. Obviously, I think we're all kind of leaning towards we want Spencer and Juice back. And I think they're probably, as much as they can, because you can't pressure these guys into making these decisions. They got to do it on their own, right? But, the sooner that decision gets made, then I think the more options you have. And like you said, I mean, you'll be able to pull more talent out of the portal when things are less cloudy.
Yeah, and I'll add this too, and then I do want to get to some of the chat box over here, Phil. I know we're coming up on a break in about. Oh no, we got 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, we're loose, man. That's good.
Yeah, we're okay.
There's no hard net workout on YouTube.
No. I know how it works. I remember when I first started it, coming like from radio, I would always be checking the clock, and I'm like, wait a second, I own all this. I can do whatever I want.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say this too, and again, I don't want this to come off as disrespectful or shallow or foolish or anything like that. I am definitely not an idiot, and I understand how important Juice Wells will be, especially in the offseason to South Carolina, and how they are, the public, the media, and others are viewing the Gamecocks going into the season next year. But strictly from a football perspective, okay, people knew about Juice Wells coming into the season. There's no doubt. Okay, this kid was a pretty good player, but we all knew what the question was. I wasn't really one that asked this at all, because I had some intelligence from within the program that that I didn't have to ask a question based on what I was told. But generally, everybody else is going, yeah, that's great. But does that transfer from JMU to the SEC? Okay, so which is a fair question. And, I watched the kid play the first series of the season against Georgia State. And I remember tapping Sean, my cousin, on his shoulder. And I said, he's the best wide receiver on the team. He said, you think so? I was like, yeah, just watch him. I mean, he's pure. He runs great routes. He gets off the line quick. I mean, he had it all. You can see it right then and there. And it turns out that he was. With all of that said, this goes without saying, I'm pretty sure. But let's say Juice Wells is like, golly, I got to go. I need the money. I need to go to the NFL. But Rattler returns. That's much more important for the program. Spencer Rattler can make another Juice Wells. It might be Xavier Legette. It might be Marion Brown. It might be somebody we haven't even thought of yet. It might be a transfer. I don't know who it could be. But he can make another Juice Wells, Phil. Juice Wells cannot make another Spencer Rattler. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to, I want this kid back as much as anybody. He is just outstanding, and he's a great kid too. But if for some reason he doesn't return and your quarterback does, you can find and fill another wide receiver role.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I mean, that's what I think the portal specializes in really nowadays is skill players. I don't think, and it kind of came up in the chat boxes like, has NIL just ruined this portal? Basically, everybody's bailing to find, dollars. But, I mean, there's actually plenty of good opportunity out there. And I think to your earlier point too, JB, we've got this no-name receiver really from JMU coming to the SEC. I think that speaks highly of this staff's ability to find good talent and actually look for guys who are ready to play and, the ability to find raw, developable, if you will, guys that are out there. You just gotta make the right calls on the right guys. So and a big thing with us is culture as well. So it's like, you've got these different pieces of the puzzle. It was like, okay, they may not have been at this level, but he's a good fit for what we have going on inside the building as a program. He has the ability to, grow talent-wise, then make a good evaluation, and then bring in somebody who is just a good fit. I think that's one of the reasons, too, why we've seen us kind of not drag our feet, but be a little slower to take some of these guys out of the portal, because you're trying to find the right guys. It's got to be the right mix. Regardless of who's coming back and all of this, you want to bring in the right people.
Well, talent evaluation is such a crucial part of this, but I think people will get lost. I'm not just talking about Sacramento. I'm saying in general, if you bring in a wide receiver from Alabama, generally people are freaking out and going, "This is unbelievable. We got a kid from Alabama." If you bring in a wide receiver from Central Michigan or JMU or Arkansas State or wherever, you don't really get that, because it doesn't have the glitz and glamour. But these coaches and guys like Taylor Edwards, like their job is to figure out whether this kid can or cannot play here. And like, when it comes to the transfer portal, like, you're surely not going to bring in a kid on scholarship, okay, who would be even or under a kid that you could recruit out of high school. Like, why? What would be the point of that? You're not gaining anything there. So, like, when you're identifying a kid in the transfer portal, you're identifying a plug and play. Like, that's what you want. You want a dude who could come in and play. So if they sign a kid, it's like, the young man from Newberry. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't. And, I would be really naive, and it would just be ridiculous to sit in front of a camera and say something along the lines of, well, Mario Anderson is just as good as Marshawn Lloyd. Number one, I don't know that, so I'm lying to you. And number two, like, I think, how can you possibly say something like that? Now, could he end up being that? Maybe. Could he end up being a lot worse? Sure. But with all of that said, in this period where we don't know anything, as fans, as media members, whatever it may be, like, we just have to sit here and understand, like, you're trying to sign a kid out of the portal to play, not sit. So if you're going to take a running back from Newberry, for instance, or an offensive lineman from Western Illinois and Sidney Fugar, or an offensive lineman from Yale or whatever it may be, you've got to assume that they can play until you see that they can't. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think, and I think the staff kind of got out ahead of it, especially I was thinking about Gargiulo, the transfer from Yale, because it was like, well, what's the first thing we heard about him? Well, he's the captain and they only have one captain. So it's almost like they're having to sell him to, the average fan, right? It was like, hey, this guy, even though he's playing in the Ivy League, is an excellent, player, just because look at what he's done. Here's what it is to try to get out ahead of that and just, try to mold the narrative, if you will, into, hey, trust us, this guy's a good player.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. 11:17 here on Monday, January the 9th. I am not JC, and I hope that we don't look anything alike. I am JB. He has had to take the day off, and hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. Everybody does recognize the shiny baldness, though, of Phil Mullinax on the other side, who has single-handedly turned this program into the greatest thing since since JB and Goldwater. How about that?
I'll take that for sure.
It's not on JC, it's on Phil as to why it's been building. Please jump in like you always do when JC's here in the comments of the Nana Sports chat box, and we're gonna plug you in here. Hey, Clint, and hope you're doing well, man. Doing fine. Fine. Man. Thank you. Rolling kind of all the way back just about 30 minutes ago, and we'll start to plug some of these things in. So if you got questions, causes, concerns, whatever it may be, on this Monday morning, actually, still, please get it in. Joey says, morning, guys. Does it seem like the transfer portal is more for guys chasing NIL more than transferring for actual playing time? Interesting to see if they still start wherever they go to or split time. It does. That's what it seems like. It does to me, at least. We have these conversations constantly. Matter of fact, one of the things that's kind of on at least my agenda today, Phil, is Greg Sankey's comments from yesterday. And I know he was a little bit more focused on the early signing period itself and trying to move this thing out of December, because this is killing coaches. And by the way, the ignorance out there of some fans, I'm not saying anybody at all here, but the ignorance out there of some fans going, oh, these guys make plenty of money to deal with this stuff. Well, that may be true, but then that also means, when they wake up and they work for 14, 15 hours a day and they make a mistake and that mistake shows up in a game in the fall, you can't bitch about it. Like these guys have a lot going on, and we all know that. This is a very educated group of people around here when it comes to college athletics. We understand what these guys do. They wake up, they recruit their own roster, they recruit other guys they're trying to coach, and God knows what else is going on. They're dealing with NIL stuff on that. You're dealing with all kinds of stuff. In addition to all the stuff you've always dealt with. I mean, you forget that.
And then you got to play the game.
You're worried about NIL and transfer portals and signing periods, and you got a bowl game coming up in 10 days, and you got the rest of your guys who you've been coaching looking around going, do we get any time, or are we just worried about this kid that nobody knows about yet? So there is a lot that's going on, and I think that Sankey is trying to. College football has not overcorrected itself; it's overreached, and now they're trying to correct. And it's going to be the SEC, and it's going to be the Big Ten, even though some people might not want to hear that, but it's true. Those are the two most powerful leagues out there. It ain't the ACC, it ain't the Big 12, and it ain't the Pac-12. It is the SEC, and then the SEC again, and then the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's why you get two votes at the table.
You want changes? That's where it's coming from. Look at them. Just follow the money. The Big Ten might have a new leadership. Maybe if Kevin Warren ends up slipping out and taking over the Chicago Bears, who knows? But you look at the deals, the TV deals, the amount of money that flows to the Big Ten. Clearly in the SEC, we all know what's happening, what's coming, and there's your leadership. Those are the ones that are going to have to step up and say, we can't do this anymore. Okay, we got to fix this. We got to fix it all. And there has got to be a way to do it. I don't have the answer. I mean, I think if you just back up timelines, you're probably going to go back and fix a lot of it. But, a lot of people don't want to hear that because there is some good with the early signing period and things of that nature. But I don't think kids should be able to enter the transfer portal that early. I think that they should have to wait till after the new year. I know that semester starts. I get it. but you're transferring. That's on you. It's just going to be up to you to hustle and bustle, man. So, if that's your choice, that's your choice. That's fine. But anyways, so that's a good question from Joey there. I do think a lot of the kids are chasing NIL. And as data comes out over the next couple of years, Phil, and you find out how many kids jump in the portal and actually not end up in a better situation, I think that you will actually see some of the scale itself back a little bit. Yeah,
you definitely will. There's going to be some kind of auto correction, if you will, within some of these portal guys, chasing money for NIL. But I mean, right now we've put the perfect storm together with, kind of unfettered name, image, and likeness, and completely open transfer portal. Gave everybody a free transfer on top of their, ability to do so after graduate school or, postgraduate transfer. But, that's kind of where we are right now. It's like, go chase the bag if you can, if you think you got the talent. And, it's just, I think some of these kids are going to make a short-sighted decision. I mean,
no doubt.
That obviously is going to just play out. I mean, you can just see it with some of these guys. But, on the other hand, I think there are situations where, and Clint brings it up pretty good. It's like Joey Hunter, Rashad Amos, they're not really chasing bags of money. They probably are going out there to get some more playing time. And,
Absolutely.
Some of these guys that make lateral or even transfer down a level, I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. But, it's all about making the right decision on your end because, these guys aren't going into the portal to become preferred walk-ons. So you're going to have to make scholarship room for any, player that you bring in out of the portal at whatever level it is that they are. If you want to buy them, you can buy them. And if not, they just go in there, get a scholarship and play.
Well, I think Clint hit the nail on the head. He's exactly right. And that's what it was designed for young men and young women in other respective sports that for whatever reason, it just isn't working out. And, that was kind of the pure thought of it all was
right.
We're going to give these young men and young ladies a chance to transfer and go be better, figure out a better situation for them. What it's turned into is a bunch of monsters on the outside that have hijacked it. And they're throwing around money and cars and houses and God knows what else. And trying to buy their way to the top. It's working for some. For some, it has not. Didn't work at A&M, and so far it hadn't worked in Miami. Could next year. Who knows? Certainly worked for TCU. They got a bunch of transfers, and they're in the national championship tonight at 7:30 on ESPN. So, it's just a cluster. You know what? And we'll kind of leave it there. It is.
Yeah.
A little bit past.
They paved that road with good intentions, JB, and we all know where the destination of that road is.
Yeah, I get it. Like I understood it. I hated the concept when I first thought about it. Then I understood it, but they did it almost out of fear. Like, let's just let them all roam wherever they want to roam because we're tired of dealing with lawsuits and we're tired of dealing with this and we're tired of being the bad guy. Just let them do it. Well, it hadn't. That's not the best thing for college football. So they're going to have to figure out how to kind of reel it all in. And on top of all that, you got coaches they're kind of done with it. Like, okay, do I have to literally wake up and live my day like this where every ounce, every inch, every second of my day, every inch of my walk is revolving around whether a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid is or isn't going to be here or is taking more money or I don't know what's going on? Or do I want to go to the NFL? Or I don't have to worry about that crap. I just coach whatever groups in my room. I don't have to recruit. I don't have to draft. I don't have to do anything.
No decisions on personnel. Somebody else makes that call, and I got my guys, and these are my guys.
Yeah, I just wake up. I mean, there's kind of a reason why money is skyrocketing in college football. You got to pay the best of the best to be able to manage this. There's a reason why Kirby Smart's buyout is $103 million. He's able to manage it all, and so far, so good. So, well, yeah, crazy. It's just crazy to even think about. But Clint, we're going to hit a quick timeout. His question, though, a little bit earlier. Can you believe Hardesty got a raise and an extension? That one surprised me. We'll lead off with that one when we return on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the song.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. The show is brought to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to set up a no-obligation consultation about a potential backyard retreat for your home. John, even though we had to reschedule on Friday and thought we was coming in today, we'll be on sometime this week for an edition of Bigger News to Come. Hopefully we'll have him and JC in at the same time. But, yeah, let's see here. I'm trying to pull up the comment from Clit and JB. The one, yeah, we were talking Mo Hardesty. Yeah, well, I think that shocked a lot of people. After 2 years, I still think, the book's kind of out on whether or not this is good. I think a lot of the perception from the fan base is going to hinge on how Dontavius Braswell plays out in the long run as to whether or not he is an astute recruiter and has the ability to make those good talent evaluations. But what are your thoughts there on Mo?
Yeah, so look, I'm going to go more off of sources on this than opinion. I'm not. This is not going to be an opinion piece for me at all. I am going off of the word of 2 high school coaches and a staffer at South Carolina that are in love with Mo Hardesty, all of them. And I asked specifically 2 head coaches whom I know quite well at major Power 5. At major what is it? 5A schools.
The high school 5A. Yeah. Yeah. The big ones.
Hello. Have another. At major 5A programs, just because I know that they're heavily recruited by South Carolina. And side note on that, one of the main things, I know a lot of high school coaches, okay, from my years at ESPN and things of that nature, and just a lot of guys that I kind of grew up with all over the state now. There's tentacles everywhere, and it's really neat. And I love having that network, and they're all really good people. And so I have no problem asking them questions, and I have no problem getting the answers. And I can tell you, in the past, there was some rough stuff you had to listen to, because it kind of hurts you. Like, personally speaking, I have a job to do. When you're in the media, you have a job to do. Or professionally speaking, I mean, personally speaking, the inside is you're like, God, I'm a fan of this school, and I just hate hearing that. Golly, that sucks. That type of thing. Since Shane has been at South Carolina, they have been beyond outstanding at recruiting South Carolina. They're in and out of places consistently, whether they have a player or not, or whether they have a player or not that we know about. And so, that's the first good news. The second good news, when it comes strictly to Montario Hardesty, is that these cats are like, they love him. I had one 5A head coach literally tell me, he goes, we get recruited by everybody. You realize that, right? Like we got some dudes here. He is my favorite recruiter that walks through the door. So that
says a lot, man. It really does.
It does. And I don't want to say I was taken aback at all, because how would I know? I don't know Coach Hardesty. I watched him play in TV and live and in person. Enjoyed watching him play for the Vols. And that's all I knew about him. I know that Shane hired him and really thinks highly of him. But then the more that I talk to trusted people that I know and that would know much better than me, my guys are thrilled. And so I pair that with the fact that there is a change in leadership at the offensive coordinator position. And, you always wonder what you don't know. There's just a lot we don't know. And let's give him a little bit of credit here too, because once Marshawn was able to finally get healthy and they committed to using him in the offense, you quickly saw how good he is and can be. Jaheim Bell was not even a running back, and he was the guy that they felt most comfortable with, and ended up being pretty good. Now, Christian Beal-Smith wasn't healthy this year. Montario Hardesty was the coach in 2021, right? Last year. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, Kevin Harris wasn't healthy, and then he got healthy and turned out to be Kevin Harris again.
Yeah. That's right. Back to normal. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Zaquandre White. I mean, a kid that I wanted to see come in and be a running back from day one. He ended up being pretty good. So, I mean, it's hard for me to sit in front of a camera and try to be some know-it-all Joe when Shane Beamer knows everything about this cat behind the scenes. I can't imagine he's wanting to extend the guy and pay him more money if he ain't worth it. So I'd say let's wait and see, especially with the change. Now, where a lot of people questioned it, and I understand it, and I haven't even gotten further down the comments. I have no idea what's being said right now. I understand the recruiting side of things. Like, this comment is made often, and it is true. I truly believe this. Like, you generally want your running backs coach to be one of your best recruiters. Just because, though, his name is not directly tied to a laundry list of, high 3-star, 4-star, 5-star prospects or whatever it is, in my opinion, does not necessarily mean that he is not influential in the decisions of some of the young men that are coming to South Carolina to play football. So I think that there's much more behind the curtain. We'll leave it there. I think we probably need to hold judgment a little bit, and I think that's probably the fairest way to look at it, at least just the way I see it through my eyes.
No, yeah. I mean, I think you're right too, because and the way that the staff is structured recruiting is, everybody has a territory, and then they get called in for their specific position players if they find somebody outside of their territory, geographically. The other side of that too, JB, is here we know, Beamer's emphasis on recruiting and his prowess being a good recruiter for his entire career. Because, I mean, we don't have a long list of things to look at from a head coach perspective. However, we do have, examples of Shane being an excellent recruiter. And so we have to trust that he's going to surround himself with people who are going to place just as high an emphasis on that as he would. And I think, that those are paying dividends right now as you're looking at, I keep thinking about Marquis Anderson up here in the upstate from Dorman. Dorman has not been very friendly to the Gamecocks as of late. So, you're making inroads into programs, big programs throughout the state where traditionally you've kind of fallen off. So, if Mo is part of that plan, then we have to trust the process. I mean, and that's been the whole thing with Shane anyway, because there's a lot of, I think, people who even sit in chairs like we do behind microphones, right, who pass kind of judgments and want to look at the staff through the lens of their own perspective and get mad when they don't make the decisions that they want to, and forget that they're not in control and they need to trust Shane in making the right decisions for the program.
Yeah, I agree. Let me quick side note too. While I'm on today until 1, filling in for JC, I can't do the Coach O voice, and I sure can't make the whole beef sandwiches joke. So if you're going to be looking for those today, hold off, and we'll see if we can't get JC in tomorrow to do it for you. I'll laugh and cut up with you all day long. We'll make fun of people, but I can't do that. To Clint's point, because I know that he had originally asked a question, and I've seen a couple of his comments here, and so one of them, I think his contract did run out at the end of 2023. Why not just wait until the end of the upcoming season to make that decision? Again, that's another one of those, we don't know what we don't know. We have no idea. I would, knowing Shane and understanding how things work, I would venture a guess that he is probably, I don't know if he's like, if you could go to some website and find his name attached to some prospect as, quote, lead recruiter, like you can on some of these. Oh, this is the lead recruiter, and he's getting a 4.8 rating from us. I would venture a guess that Montario Hardesty is very important to probably a couple of kids down the road. and extending him probably a good thing to help with that. As in, like, I don't know if Coach Hardesty is going to be there after next year, so I'm a little unsure. Oh, wait, he just got added another year or two to his contract. Okay, makes me feel a little bit better. There's always an underlying reason. Clint, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying that would be my response if we were sitting in a bar having a conversation, probably because we don't know something. That would probably be my response there. And then Clint goes on to say he had some questionable decisions on the running back rotation in games in 2021. So Quandre White disappeared in some games. Well, we also found out this year that we had 20 personnel packages. I'm not sure how much of all that I can put on Montario Hardesty. I mean, everybody disappeared. Right. So, I mean, we going into
we all know the MO of the former offensive coordinator here.
Yeah, I can't hammer a running backs coach for, guys coming in and out of the game. I mean, the best damn player was coming off the field a lot of the times when we're sitting there scratching our head going, why are we taking our best player off the field? We're about to score. I mean,
it is kind of crazy, that both, Zaquandre White and Kevin Harris are, competing for playing time on Sundays now. So,
yeah. I just, so. Yeah, that would good conversation, great questions. There's no doubt. Don't have the answers, but I'm just trying to think outside the box here to figure out exactly what's going on. Tiffany says, "I hope DL is different and the depth chart is developed and the rotation is driven by production and who we want on the field in the fourth quarter with the game on the line." Yeah, that's generally, what you generally hope for in a depth chart is that the best players are on the field and they play. I mean, it's just kind of how it works.
That's right. That's
you're
right.
Certainly going to,
which isn't something that we could always count on a couple years past.
You don't really have to reinvent the wheel. You can kind of just look around and who are our best players and play those guys. But obviously in football, there are certainly times where you're going to have personnel packages for many different reasons. But I hear you. That's well done. Hey, Lance, hope you're well. And we JC is hanging in there. So we'll.
Hey, Lance, the portal is give-a-thing right now. By the way, hope they kind of settle you down there. I know last week we were looking a little crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
When is it going to give? When is it going to give? Well, here it is. It's given.
Yeah. There you go. It's given.
With a couple of decent guys, like I was reading. I know this. Jerron Willis. What is he? Out of Ole Miss, I think. Played in one game this year, but everybody's looking for some linebacker help. I think we found that there, and Fugar is offensive lineman, so he's going to come in and compete for a starting position, so that's good. I mean, both of these last two that we picked up, JB, look like they're addressing positions of need, let's say.
Yeah, no doubt, and they're about to do it again at some point in time this week. I'm sure everybody's seen JC's report by now on Trajan Jeffcoat. That was something that I'll just kind of raise my hand that was kind of admitted to me behind the scenes last week. And I'm not saying that was by JC necessarily. I'm just saying it was a, hey, keep your eyes on this and somebody else, which we won't get into that conversation until we see if it comes to fruition. So a little bit expected there, at least on my end of things, with Jeffcoat jumping into the portal. And according to JC, he'd be shocked to see him anywhere but in Columbia. We'll hold off on some of that conversation because there's a lot to get into it on him versus Birch and the production and all that. Yeah. But definitely something that's on the table to get to here in just a moment. I do. You mentioned the Willis kid from Ole Miss. Michael says on the Nana's Porch chat box, or in the Nana's Porch chat box, with so much depth at linebacker now, do you think one of them could change positions? One of the linebackers could change positions. We don't want to leave the talent on the bench. I don't know. I think that linebacker has been a position for the last couple of years that they have really needed to upgrade. And so I think they're upgrading, and you kind of just let it work itself out and see what happens there. I was talking with Bill this morning on 107.5 in my weekly appearance with him, Phil, and Bill and Phil. It'd be a good show. And, I mentioned, hey, look, I think first and foremost, personally, as it pertains to the Gamecocks linebackers, is I will take my hat off and tip it as far as I possibly can to two young men named Brad Johnson and Sherrod Green.
Yeah.
These guys played their tails off for Carolina. They played through injuries. They did everything that was asked of them every year by multiple coaches throughout the Muschamp era and now throughout the Beamer era. They never complained. They just went to work. I mean, those were your blue-collar guys. Like, you could hire those guys if they want to be attorneys. They're going to be excellent attorneys. If they want to work on a railroad, they'll be excellent at working on it. It doesn't matter what they do. They're going to do it the best that they possibly can because there's a whole team of people to worry about. And those are the type of kids you want in your program. So it's hard, at least for me, to have a conversation about lack of talent without first acknowledging that these two guys played their rear ends off through injuries, battled back. Sherrod Green last year, I thought when he went down early in the season last year, Phil, I thought that was a huge blow to the Gamecock defense.
Incredible.
I think he finished his career with the best game of it in the bowl game against Notre Dame. Brad Johnson, many may forget, when he came in, they had nobody at defensive end. He was playing defensive end, undersized at 6'2". What was he, about 230 pounds in the SEC?
Yeah, that's what I weighed when I got married, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But this guy played his, way off. Like, he actually had a really good year. He was a pass rusher. He would get after the quarterback as best he could. Totally undersized, but all heart. And so I first and foremost want to give those guys just so much credit. Just like we had, Damani Staley deserves so much credit because these guys, they picked up their lunch pail and went to work every day. With that said, I do think that when it comes to star linebacker, like you gotta, in this league, right, Phil, when you look at the great defenses now and from any other time, pretty much in the history of it, they always had a great linebacker somewhere.
Right.
Always at Alabama, always at Georgia. Anytime Florida's defense is tops in the country, look at the linebacker position. Same thing at LSU. Ole Miss, when they turned into the land shark defense a few years ago, they had outstanding linebackers. And that's just the nature of the beast. Tennessee and so on and so forth. Toa left and went to Alabama. Bam, immediate hit on defense. Carolina is not much different for the most part. Generally when they have a really good linebacker, defensively, they're pretty good. I mean, they certainly had some off games when Sky Moore was in there. But overall, Jasper Brinkley, and you could go on. And so Mo Kaba's a guy who I think is the guy. Some have questioned Pup Howard and whether he's going to stay at linebacker. There's literally not a peep out of that building that says he's going to do anything except for be a linebacker at South Carolina, and he looks really good. Same thing with this kid. So certainly more athletic. Folks have questioned Stone Blanton. I'd hold on there because he's a freshman, and you don't go into the Magnolia State and beg for the services of a young man who very easily could have just stayed home and gone to Oxford or Starkville. It's hard to bring a kid any more east than the state of Alabama from the state of Mississippi. And South Carolina did it. There's a reason for that. So anxious to see kind of what happens there. And then Bam Scott and so on and so forth. Westmoreland, these guys, they've got depth and they've got talent. It's been a while for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that, while we may speculate if somebody's going to, move from the linebacker position, say to, I don't know, the safety, nickel, something like that, or, maybe even an edge player, depending on which one, Mike or Will, whichever they are. But I think this year, and even when you look back at, last year, JB, depth is a huge issue at linebacker. So I think that's what this move is. It was like they're going to keep these kids where they're, traditionally playing at the linebacker position, but just increasing depth in that room. And then that gives the guys like Stone and Pup the time that they need to let the game slow down, to not be thrust into an immediate starting position. That way they can go in as, second guys, third guys, get a feel for the flow of the game, which I think really was what, if you were going to criticize Stone Blanton and call it criticism for all it is for a freshman, you could just see it was like hits the wrong gap or something like that. That's in-game decision making. That's the game's moving way fast, right? Because here you are thrust into SEC play of all things and asked to play one of the most pivotal positions, especially in regards to stopping the run. And it's not that he was a deer in the headlights. It's just like it takes that fraction of a second to make the thought to where am I going to go? that's where you slip. So that's where it kind of looks like, he might not be the guy, but it's like, you still got to remember this kid's young. The more experience he has, the less he will think and the more he will be able to react.
Absolutely. And Clint said the same thing. I totally agree with him. When you're a freshman, you think a lot. That's the worst thing you can do in sports. Stop thinking and start reacting. And and I think he's a kid who's going to certainly get much better. It's 11:46. Phil Mullinax is nodding his head like, "Hey, let's go. We got a break here." So let's do that.
Slave driver Phil, right?
Yeah. And when we return, we will turn to Trajan Jeffcoat and what his likely arrival in Columbia means on the heels of a departing Jordan Birch. Hang tight. The Inside the Gamecocks, the show. We'll be right back.
Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is freshman All-American Nicky Warrior of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you're listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
And we're back inside the Gamecocks. The show is brought to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to talk about some perhaps a porch enclosure for your house or an outdoor retreat. And, of course, the first hour of the show is brought to you by Cindy Searfoss and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Give Cindy a call, 864-414-5271 for your upstate residential real estate needs. And JB's got you covered down in the low country. Appreciate it, JB. Give you here a shameless plug for filling in for JC today. Yep. Reach out to JB if you're looking for a house down there in the low country area.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you know somebody that is, we will take good care of the Gamecocks and the Tigers and other people as well. We'll do, let's see, for Clemson fans, 10% commission. For Gamecock fans, let's go with between 2.5 and 3.
That's right.
How about that? A couple of things.
Encourage all these upcountry people to move down there, because 10% on price or housing prices down there make you a good bit of money there, JB.
Yeah. That's sell one house and quit for the rest of the year.
That's right. Yeah, only got to sell one or two a year. Yeah,
do a damn thing. No. Keith mentioned a little bit ago, and he's right. Nobody wanted, or at that time really knew of, except for local people in Columbia, Nick Eamon-Warrior and DQ Smith. And he said nobody wanted Eamon-Warrior or DQ starting either. Imagine the panic if that had been seriously discussed last January. Bingo, you're right. You just don't ever know how these things are going to work out. Man, no. I hate to lighten the mood, but I've got 2 little kids who are about to be 4. But there are so many things in my life that I worry about. And where these coaches are going to play, guys, it just isn't one of them. They get paid a bunch of money to figure that crap out. I'll talk about it, but I'm not losing sleep over this, that, and the other. We'll kind of figure it all out there. I did see too, Craig had asked if Jeffcoat was only 230. No. He listed around 270 this year going into the season. My guess is he's probably about 260 now. So you can probably expect him to play somewhere between 260 and 270 next year in Columbia, if that works out. Mm-hmm. Columbia, South Carolina, because he is coming from Columbia, Missouri. Guy just likes Columbia. He never wanted to leave Columbia.
He's attached to Columbia's. Yeah.
It's all good. He's a Columbia guy. Sonder Days, who was the quote one coach mentioned when talking about bringing this guy back? I assume T-Rob. No. I've heard a little bit differently. Again, I don't want my word to be taken as gospel and spread all over the internet as false. So, but let's just say that it was, my understanding of this was this came from a former defensive line coach at South Carolina. But at the end of the day, Will Muschamp's head coach. If you want a kid, you're the head coach. Sign him. So it didn't work out. And if this young man has a chance to come back to Columbia, South Carolina, I got a feeling he's going to be pretty excited to do it. It's interesting, Phil, because someone texted me yesterday and said, okay, if the Jeffcoat stuff ends up working out, seems like a fair trade, right? Are we getting better here? My response to that is, number one, I have no idea. Okay, but here's for the sake of the fact that we have cameras and microphones and have conversation about this, I would say that they're not getting worse.
Right.
I think that Jordan Birch is a kid who I've thought long and hard about this, about, when he signed, how about this? What did you think when Birch signed in 2020, when he announced on national TV he was coming to Carolina? What were your first thoughts?
You think, okay, here we go. 5-star kid, local, going to make an immediate impact, but then you got to fall back on the whole, this is a developmental sport. And I think I was excited. I was a little, I don't know. It's interesting you asked me about Birch, Jay, because there's always been this like cloudy view for me with Birch, right? Just his whole recruitment. I mean, heck, even the antics, this is the wrong word, but just the crazy situation for his signing day. And then, I think a lot of people were like, well, he underperformed. And then I'm just falling back on the fact, well, it's hard to come in and be a defensive end beast. I mean, it even took Clowney a year before he had his breakout season, this, that, and the other. And then I think, he had a great game in the bowl game and then, just up and disappears. But, I think we all figured he would be just this premier player for the Gamecocks. And I'm not going to say he fell short of expectations, but I think he fell short of a lot of fan expectations.
There you go. I think I'm not, I certainly won't go as far at all as to say that he was a guy who fans thought was going to be the next Jadeveon Clowney, because there will never be another Jadeveon Clowney until there is one.
Right.
Okay. Like nobody can possibly be replaced. I'm sorry. Compared to a guy like that at all, regardless of whatever recruiting rankings are out there, or anything of that nature, until you get through 3 years of football and you go, oh my God, the guy was better than Jadeveon Clowney. It's impossible. So here's what I thought. I thought this kid was going to come in. It was going to take him about half the season, similar a little bit to, though, Jadeveon, and that he would get in there, start to get his feet wet, just based on pure ability. You'd see a kid who going into the 2021 season was going to have a crap ton of hype around him. Mm-hmm. And then I thought last year, he's going to catch lightning in a bottle and really get going. And I think much like most others, it seemed like he really never did. Had some very special moments. Certainly a very athletic young man. From what I understand, great kid. Hell, I know his high school coach real damn well, and Eric Kimmery will be the first one to tell you, I love Jordan Birch and hope the best for him always. But it just seemed like, it never really took off. With that said, there's always more than the stat book. And I think that Jordan really, really kind of started to figure it out. I wonder if a different defense will be more helpful for him. And, I don't know. But he's not here anymore. And so now you look at his potential replacement and a guy who I think really will just coming home. And this is home, man. Yeah. I mean, wait a second. Hold on for a second here, right? You could have an Irmo Yellow Jacket starting at defensive end and another one starting in the secondary. I didn't go to Irmo. Got a lot of respect for him. When's the last time you could say that happened? Think about this for a second. If Jeffcoat comes to Carolina and starts, all right, which he probably would.
Right.
Irmo. Okay, that's one. Eamon Worry, Irmo, that's two. DQ Smith, Spring Valley, that's three. Boogie Huntley, Hammond, four. Okay. Who am I missing? That's four guys just from Columbia who would be on your starting defense.
15-mile radius, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, O'Donnell Fortune's a Sumter guy, right? So that's five. Tonka Hemingway is from the Myrtle Beach area. That's six in-state guys could be starting here. Where am I missing here? We don't really know anything about the linebackers just yet.
Right.
But more than likely won't have a bunch of in-state guys starting at linebacker. But you could have 6 or 7 of your starters on defense next year from the state of South Carolina. That's neat.
You take that, and it's special. These kids grew up in the shadows of, Williams-Brice Stadium. More than likely, dreamed about playing there. Right, yeah.
Dial.
Right, yeah, Dial. Right, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
Yep.
Clint.
7.
I knew I was forgetting somebody.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you could have 7 guys in your starting defense from within the borders of wow. I mean, first of all, that says they're all really good players, and second of all, that is just fantastic for you. Like, what do you think that recruiting pitch is like? You're going out around the state of South Carolina and you're recruiting guys, and you're going, look at our guys here. We're pretty good, and these all these dudes. Beamer, that's something he wanted. Like he wanted this, And hey, look, some of these guys are Muschamp guys. You want to call them that or whatever. Like Will Muschamp recruited the state of South Carolina. You can't take that away from him. That is absolutely true. He did.
Yeah.
But they're landing them all now. They're landing them all, and they're developing kids that the recruiting quote experts say aren't the top players in the state. That is a really good mixture, and I hope it continues.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the footprint for a successful program build. I mean, when you look back at, just where we were historically, making good evaluations on kids that might have 2 or 3 stars, and then next thing you know, 3 years later, after they've been stellar Gamecocks, move on to the NFL. And if you look at it, right now the current most successful, athletics program in the school is, women's basketball. And Dawn Staley did the exact same thing. Take the best kids from your state first, and then once you get to that level and prove that you can, put a solid team together, then branch out and go get the best in the country.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's where a lot of people have felt, as fans at least, kind of let down from the men's side of basketball, and the fact that they just haven't been able to land all the top prospects in South Carolina. They've landed some over the years, no doubt, and that's largely what the Final Four run was built around. However, not all. Had they landed all, they should be really damn good every year, but they are not good. And we're going to hit a timeout because it's hour 1 in the books. Though when we return, we will get to basketball and a debacle of a game on Saturday. Phil, it was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was.
Lamont called it embarrassing, and he questioned whether his program quit or not, which is generally not good. So that is coming up, certainly. And much more. Anything you've got, send it our way in the Nana's Porch chat box. We'll hit a timeout. We'll be right back.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Whoop, whoop, easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
He'd better hang on too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the third best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese took third in a contest exclusively for products made in the state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
This is Braylon Wimmer, South Carolina Gamecock Baseball, and you are listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil. Go Cox!
And tip our hats and raise our glasses of cold beer. They say country's...
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. The show is brought to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662. And don't forget, if you choose to use Express Sunrooms in Columbia for your next outdoor project and mention that you heard it here on the show, they will give you $500 off of your project cost. And I figured we'd throw some Chief in there for you, JB, since it is, of course, you filling in for JC here admirably, as always, on a Monday.
Well, hat tip to my man, Mr. Eric Church, who has some big news coming out on Wednesday. So looking forward to that. I'll be up at midnight to see if it drops at midnight, and if not, I'll go back to bed. I'll just keep hitting refresh all day. I think I know what it is, but anyways, hour two
stay
here.
Up on midnight on New Year's Eve anymore, JB. I mean,
golly, yeah, it gets more difficult by the minute.
No, please,
there's no doubt. But an hour in the books, an hour to go. Please chime in as you may, when you will, whatever it is, however you want to say it, profanity aside, on the Nana's Porch chat box, and we will make sure that we pop you into the program here and answer anything and everything that we can. I do want to make quick mention of this, though, real quick. On the national side of things, from the NFL, the Cardinals have fired Cliff Kingsbury. So, he's will he be a guy that makes his way back to college football? You see this, right? As from time to time. Bill O'Brien has been a guy that has been mentioned to maybe potentially have another head coaching gig in the works.
After having gone through the Saban rehab program down there in Tuscaloosa.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Could Cliff Kingsbury be in the Nick Saban School of Coaching Rehab? I don't know.
We know. If I were to put two destinations on Kingsbury next year, one of them would definitely be down in Tuscaloosa, and then I would say the second would be out there. Let's head on over to New England and see if he can't get the offense right under Bill Belichick.
Yeah. I mean, he's an incredible offensive mind. So, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to follow because he is a college to pro guy, which I just saw this from Adam Schefter, and I want to read this. Since 2000, Phil, right. Here's the list of college head coaches who've jumped to the NFL with their records. Okay. By the way, before I list this, I'm going to give you one quick guess on who has the best record in the NFL after being a college head coach. I'll give you a hint if you want me to. I'll give you the hint. He is currently a college head coach again.
I was going to say he's probably not still with the NFL. I don't know. I'd have to say, what, Saban probably? No,
Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, Harbaugh. Yeah, I forgot about Harbaugh.
Yeah, which is amazing. The 49ers fired him. He went 44-19-1 in the NFL. Urban Meyer was the worst at 2-11 for the most part. I guess we can't forget old Bobby Petrino rolling out a 3-10 season.
Yeah, that's right.
Matt Rule went just 11-27. That was terrible for Panthers, obviously. Kingsbury was 28-37-1, which in the grand scheme of things actually looked fairly respectable. Bill O'Brien did have a winning record at 52-48, so coached exactly 100 games in the league before being relieved of his duties down in Texas. Chip Kelly was 26-21. You know, he caught a bunch of crap being with the Eagles, but he was actually 5 games above 500. Of course, he's not what they are now, but Doug Maroney, 15-17. Greg Schiano, 11-21. I mentioned Harbaugh. Nick Saban, 15-17. Butch Davis, 24-35. And Steve Spurrier, 12-20 with the Washington Redskins. So Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL, wins 2/3 of his games, gets fired. I don't know. And now he's back in college football, and he's quote-unquote testing the NFL waters. And then we get this. Which
just in time for a little scandal to pop up, right? Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, come on, man. Let's be honest. Let's be on. Yeah, Stacy. Yeah, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll obviously jumped from college to the NFL, but that was he was NFL, college, NFL. These are guys college to the NFL, if I can say that right. But come on, man, dude, the Harbaugh, this is garbage. I mean, we're really like we're going to hammer a guy for some meals for lying about
breakfast
rule during COVID. Give me a break. I mean, like, so basically what you're saying is you did nothing wrong, but you know what you did wrong. You crossed the big bad wolf, and that's us. We're the NCAA. You don't lie to us, whether it's about food or whatever. We're gonna level one you. I mean, if I was Harbaugh, I'd be flipping the bird and walking out the door, but I'm not dealing with this. Like, all the stuff we already have to deal with, and now I got to deal with this. Give me a break.
Nah, yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, the NCAA, geez, come on, get over yourself. Yeah, it really, like, in my opinion, this is the thing that I like about the conferences getting larger and growing. I mean, because right now I would say, JB, that the SEC and Big Ten, if they really wanted to, if they wanted to push, could completely change the landscape of college athletics, not just football, in that they wield enough power and with the media relations they have, wield enough money to render the NCAA obsolete.
They should.
Should they choose? You know, just keep getting bigger. And that's all you'd have to do.
Look, I think that the NCAA, when we all step back and like really think about it, and I do want to get to hoops, even that's a very
we keep putting it off like subconsciously, right?
I know.
Michi Johnson's a hell of a player, JB.
Yeah, guy's really fast. Doesn't know where he's throwing it sometimes.
No, yeah, that's right.
I mean, but like the NCAA, I mean, if we to have an honest conversation, like they do, like there are structures in place that the NCAA oversees that certainly are good, you know, like, you know, from an academic standpoint and things like that. You know, they do a great job with the college baseball playoffs. You know, they're in charge of the playoffs in college baseball. You know, March Madness, although I remember when I covered working for ESPN, the 2017 regional in Greenville, when Sacramento went up there and, of course, beat Marquette and beat Duke. And I remember going to walk on the floor, and the lady, I mean, she was like about to throw me out of the arena. I was like, she stops me, and I said, "I'm sorry." She goes, "You cannot take that water bottle out here." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been feeling well, and I'm just, my throat's been killing me. So I'm just, can I just, what do I do?" You go back there and you throw that in the trash can, and you can get water out of one of those jugs with one of the blue NCAA cups. I'm like, wow. Okay, the blue cup Nazis are out in full force. And as I found, I was asking Derek Scott, I said, man, I didn't realize they were that crazy about it, because we were down on the floor talking before the game. And Derek said, yeah, you don't walk out anything out here. If it doesn't have the blue logo on it, you ain't coming out. Like, that's not happening. So there's some pretty stupid stuff that they worry about. But then there also is some good things. But I feel like they just totally lost control and therefore lost vision of how to maintain some type of cohesiveness maybe in college athletics. They kind of almost gave up, almost threw in the towel. We can't do this. I don't know. We're tired of lawsuits. We're tired of this. We're tired of that. Fine. Screw it. Just let them do whatever they want to do. Threw their hands up. Now they've hired a new president who is a former politician, which he was a Republican in the state of Massachusetts, but which, God, that's impossible to be, but he was. So somehow this guy knows how to reach across the aisle and get things done. Is that good for the NCAA? I would like to think. But, I mean, it's stuff like this, and throwing their hands up with the transfer portal and throwing their hands up with NIL. And then they come and they want to investigate you see a level 1 violation. You think that Jim Harbaugh hired a bunch of strippers and threw a bunch of cocaine at these kids on his football team. So y'all go have a good weekend. You beat Ohio State. Like, that's not what happened. He lied. Yeah. he told them, the NCAA, that these kids didn't get a free meal during COVID when they weren't allowed to meet and this, that, and the other to protect his kids. And now they're going to hammer with a level 1 violation. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean,
the COVID dead period, the kids made their own way to Michigan. It's not like he paid and put them up in a hotel and said, come on out here and tampering with it. It was like they were there. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come of Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I think in our neck of the woods, that conversation is better suited for those that wonder what's going to happen with a guy like Nicholas Harbor if Harbaugh isn't the coach at Michigan. To that response, I'd say ask Tony Morrell and J.C. Sherbert and Hale McGranahan. I don't know the answer. I would say it probably helps you, but I don't know the answer. I do hope, though, that Jim Harbaugh is coaching college football. I like Jim Harbaugh. Some people don't.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like him. I've always liked the guy. I like his whole family. I mean, they're the Harbaughs. I bet there's incredible conversations around the dinner table. Probably kind of strange at times, but
get a bit odd. A lot of milk being drank. Yeah.
I like it. Sonder Days
khaki pants around too, right?
Yeah. A lot of khaki pants. Yeah,
a lot of khaki.
Saunders says, "Did JB forget about Mitt Romney?" No, I didn't. I didn't forget about Mitt Romney. I mean, I'm just saying, these northeastern states, it's hard to be a Republican and get elected up there. You gotta
be extremely moderate, to do that. But I think that's. I was worried. I mean, not that I really respected Emmert and thought he should, remain there, but when the NCAA did choose to pick a moderate northeastern governor, that's kind of signaling to everybody that they're willing now to jump into the political aspect of it, like you said, and get Congress involved where typically they have just kind of not. And are going to try to wield their power from Washington as opposed to from where's Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't stand politics. Okay, and certainly not going to get into anything that has anything to do with politics with any of y'all. But I don't like my last resort on everything is call Congress. I mean, my God, they can't generally get much done. But you almost don't really have much of a choice right now unless you kind of go back to what you said. There's a leader in mind, and they're just going to say, the hell with it. We're done with all of it, at least from the football standpoint, and here's what we're going to do. But it still doesn't solve all of your problems. I mean, football gets all the headlines because of it is football. But, I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, the basketball transfer portal is as much of a disaster as anything.
Oh,
I mean, you get a new coach and your whole
unfettered
team.
NIL. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, Bill reminded me this morning, Bill Gunner on 107.5, when we were talking back on April the 1st. You know how many scholarship players LSU had on their basketball team?
Oh, wasn't it none? Didn't they have to rebuild that program? Yeah. Zero.
Now, they're obviously much better than South Carolina, which we're getting to now, but that's insane. I mean, like, and I get it. They went through a lot down there, with all kinds of things. But also, when you make a coaching change, kids who have a year or who have a transfer in them, they're gone. They just generally don't stay anymore. And so they gotta figure it out. But anyways, Daddy-O, we're not getting into the political stuff. So
That's right.
Let's keep it quiet on that front. And don't
prayers
kick
for
the
you and
horse
your
down.
family 76. I saw that earlier. Yep, got something going on, but yeah, we'll definitely keep you in our prayers.
No doubt. Prayer, whatever's going on with you, my man, we'll put you right there on the list, and we'll think about you, and you let us know what else we can do, because
man,
we'll do it if we can.
Happy to, at the very least, provide you a nice distraction in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Phil, 85-42, the final. 8th-ranked Tennessee comes to Columbia and just beat the hell out of Carolina. Gamecocks scored 21 points in both halves. They had, I think, 12 field goals for the whole game.
Yeah. What was it? 26% shooting from the field, JB? Not going to win many games that way, man.
You're not going to win any.
No,
actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Not going to win any.
Especially when you can't do 3 free throws either. So it's like, here we are. All these things are rearing their ugly heads again.
Yeah, I'll give them credit. They finally shot it well from the free throw line, 14 of 15 in that game. It was the only thing they did do well. 21 rebounds. Tennessee had 48. Not to mention, by the way, that Tennessee had 85 points, as we all know. 4 of 26 from long range, just 12 of 48 overall from the floor. Phil, when you're 12 of 48 from the floor, you're 4 of 26 from three-point range. Those are all ugly numbers. That number one tells you stop shooting 33-pointers a game if you can only hit 15% of them. Number two, oh my God, you only hit 8 2-pointers in 40 minutes of basketball. That is awful. That's one every 5 minutes. That's embarrassing. What that also tells you, going into the game, if anybody had seen Tennessee play basketball this year, you knew, first of all, they're really good. And they're Final Four type good if they stay healthy. Okay. They got a couple of in-state kids on that team. A young man who I once interviewed on ESPN when I was still with them, Josiah James. He's an outstanding kid. Really wish he was in the Garnet and Black. Great kid. Hope best for him. Hope he goes to the NBA and has a stellar career. Carolina's basketball team right now sucks. And they, going into that game, you knew about Tennessee overall. They could do it all, but in the paint, they're also really good. Those numbers show you Carolina has absolutely zero presence in the paint, like none. And they should, because they got a 7'1" guy named Josh Gray. He brought in a transfer from Illinois, and he has not played well at all in Bozeman's Verdant. They're not good, and it hurts. It hurts.
Good stuff. Is worst loss in CLA history for men's basketball. So
yeah, it's I don't.
And here's the thing, JB. Like I hear Lamont Paris, and I realize first year, head coach here. I get it. You did get Gigi Jackson, which everybody thought was like, oh yeah, we're gonna, I don't know. I think people overinflated his ability to, inflate the record, if you will. But in his post games, it's like we continually hear JB about, just the attitude of the team, the body language, the, things that fall directly on his shoulders. Like the culture and fire in that team are directly related, in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure, what he does during practice. Obviously, we're not privy to that, but they fall on Lamont Paris's shoulders. And halfway through the season is about where we are, right? We're still hearing the same excuses when the team loses. So, how much of that is on the players and how much of that is on Paris himself?
Well,
that's
look,
the question I have.
Hey, love him, leave him, or hate him, and it really is a moot point. It doesn't matter because Frank Martin is not the head coach of South Carolina. But I watched Frank Martin teams for 11 years, and I didn't see 1 second where there was ever anybody that wasn't playing hard or that quote unquote basically quit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you didn't do that under Frank, or you weren't going to be here. So, I mean, you wouldn't even be in the locker room after the game. He'd take your jersey off, wouldn't let you lock in, and that was it. You're done. So I who's it on? Look, I think if you ask Lamont, he would tell you it's on him. Everything I don't actually know Lamont Paris. I really look forward to the day that I get to meet him. Everybody that I've spoken to says he's just a great person. They enjoy talking basketball with him. I agree with what Clint had to say a minute ago in the Nana Sports chat box and the fact that the offense does have no rhyme or reason. He says it reminds him of watching some of the Darren Horn squads. I think that I'm not a basketball pro. I understand basketball. I understand the basic concepts of it. I understand how you move it, and I understand defense and things like that. This team, Frank's team's got the ball up the floor, and they had a system. And if they were off, it was off. But if they were on, it was on, and generally they had a chance. I'm not really sure that. Have you seen a system? Because I haven't. I mean, they kind of just dribble into the paint and try to figure it out from there, and generally nobody really knows what to do.
And then early in the season too, it was interesting because that free flow kind of offense feel that they have was fun to watch. As opposed to what we were watching with the Frank Martin offenses that were out there. But now that we're deeper into the season, it's like, okay, well, this structureless, amorphous offense that we have on there, how effective is this really, going to be? And it's coming up a little short here lately.
Yeah, it's just really embarrassing. I mean, and fans are, they continuously come back to, well, look, there's two ways to look at this. Okay. Again, it's a moot point right now. It doesn't matter. It happens. So just have to fix what you've got. And I don't know if there's a fix right now. It might not be till the off season if there is one, but I mean, I understand the conversation. We all have them of what could be. Had you let Frank return for a season, you were basically returning the whole roster and you were getting G.G. Jackson. I remember all these conversations back in the spring. Are we really going to get him? What if we don't? Guys, they were getting G.G. Jackson. Okay. Frank Martin was going to coach G.G. Jackson in 22-23. All right. That was going to happen. You return everybody, you would have been one of the more experienced teams, if not the most experienced team in the SEC, Phil. And this team would have had a chance to be pretty good. Generally, Frank Martin teams that have guys who stuck around for a while, they're pretty good. Final Four run.
See that. Yeah, across basketball. It was like these teams that, have 4 and 5 year starters. I mean, they're the ones who run deep into the tournament. You want to talk about your Cinderellas? Look at them. Look at the composition of any Cinderella team. There are at least a bare minimum of 4 players on that roster who have been playing for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned it a minute ago in the chat box. Look what happened to the Gamecocks in Charleston. Those teams that they lost to in Charleston have all been together. I mean, experienced, crisp basketball. They move the ball. They know how to pass it. They get the ball up the floor. They know how to take good shots. They're in position to rebound. There's really no street ball. There is a system that is in play, and you just don't feel you're seeing that. The other thing, though, that people talk about is, okay, yes, we should have moved on from Frank. Fine, that's fine. I'm not disagreeing or arguing with anybody's opinions. I'm just for the sake of conversation here. However, we just didn't get it right here. I mean, I've even had people mention to me, look, if this team with exactly what they're going through is being coached by BJ Mackey, for instance, you'd have more butts in the seats and you'd have more support and people going, it's BJ Mackey. Just give him some time. He's going to get it worked out. Mm-hmm. But, nobody even knew who Lamont Paris was. And so you're not really – you're getting a lot of animosity, Phil, and then you're getting a lot of apathy.
Yep.
And I'd rather have the animosity, quite frankly.
No, exactly. Yeah. Angst and consternation go a long way, as when you put it up against apathy, because if you don't care, you're not showing up. I mean, you're not even watching the games on TV. You just like, well, maybe next year, or you just, cloud your complete vision over it. Say Lamont Paris isn't the guy, and then just turn your back on the whole program until he's gone. And, we're not in control of how long that is.
No, we're not. And, I don't know what's going to come next. I do know it's actually coming next. It's a really pissed off Kentucky team in Lexington tomorrow night after getting throttled in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. It doesn't look good, man. You got to go to Kentucky. You're going to come home against A&M. It's a team you have had some success with. And then you got Ole Miss. And as it looks today, that's your best shot at a win. The game is at home. You do have to go to Ole Miss later in the season. Ole Miss seemingly right now is as bad, if not worse, than you are. But, I mean, dude, Phil, this isn't 4 years ago, 5 years ago and beyond in the SEC. Mm-hmm. This is maybe can we argue it's the best league in the country?
It's like over the past few years, it's been building up to that. You know, I mean, there's some definitely decent teams on here. But
I mean, you got five ranked
teams. Five. Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's they
fell out.
Yeah, it just, you know, shows the strength of the league, and here it's, you know, one of those things where the league has ascended and your team has just stayed put, which is, you know, not where you want to be. You know, the rising tide should raise all boats, but your boat's got a hole in it right now, man.
No, a hole is nice. It's taking on water quick. You got 5, Phil, and then on the outside looking in, LSU, Mississippi State, and in Kentucky. You may essentially, according to, I guess was this last week's vote? So according to last week's vote, basically, you got 8 of the top 30 teams in the country. That's almost 33% of the nation. That's 30%. I mean, that's something.
You're looking at me, depending on brand bias, you could, you know, legitimately make a case for half the league to be in the tournament right now.
I can tell you who won't be in it.
And you're not on that half. No, you know, and he hated it. It's just like, you know, there was a lot of good feelings and hype going into it. It's amazing how quickly, JB, that all that can just go away. Right. I mean, you know, it's over. I mean, nobody really cares. And I don't think there's any way of turning it around this year, really, from a perspective standpoint. I think you've kind of lost a lot of the fans that are just casual fans. And, you know, your diehard basketball people are still going to watch and, you know, make their commentary. But, you know, you're definitely not going to fill up the Colonial Life Arena.
No. And it's tough and sad to even think about it, because you signed the top ranked college basketball player in the nation, and he's right here, and they really just aren't that good. For why, I don't know, but they're not that good.
No, and it makes you question whether or not, you know, Cam Scott's even going to seriously consider this as a destination at this point. I mean, because if I were in his position, even though it's, you know, hometown school, I wouldn't. I mean, what does it have to offer at this point? Unless you're, you know, being sold a lot and, you know, behind the scenes from Lamont Paris and his staff, and obviously they do a good job because they brought in some big time players, but it's just. It's hard to overcome what goes on the court.
Seems to be a strange crossroads right now. You know, can you round up enough NIL money to really get you going, and those type of things? I just really don't know what the answer is, but it's disheartening. It is. Mm-hmm. It is very disheartening. So I hate to say it, kind of back to the old days where football is over and people are just can't wait to see the Gamecocks step onto the diamond in February in baseball.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's like, hey, listen, guys, we're only a few more weeks away from a really good potential baseball season, so let's get ready for that.
Yep, we're behind the scenes. I'm hearing some pretty good stuff for South Carolina, and excited to see my man Monty Lee back in uniform.
Happy to have Monty back for sure.
He's the best, man.
Big.
12:29. I know we're past due for a timeout and a bathroom break, so we will hit this real quick. And we'll return to Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
You can't handle the truth.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Yep, time to get back to the show. Shoot. All right, my man.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. The show is presented to you by Express Sunderlands of Columbia. Give them a call, 803-446-4662, to discuss a potential outdoor retreat or perhaps even enclosing a porch or patio on your home. Mention you heard it here for a $500 discount off of your project. And JB, let's see, since we do have you on, I think we would be remiss to not dig into a little bit of baseball. Saunders says, was that sarcasm about baseball or is there real promise? I'm almost totally checked out on Kingston brand of baseball, but maybe Monty has been the juice this program needed. I know you hear a lot more about this than I do, having actually been in the program. But from what my understanding is, no, this is not sarcasm. We actually do have a bit to look forward to in what might be a bounce back season for our Yardcocks.
Yeah, look, I'm hoping for a big year from these guys. And, as I've said numerous times, and I truly mean this, hat tip to Coach Kingston for wanting what was best for the program. And what was best for the program was Monty Lee. When Coach Kaye had his situation come up where he needed to depart and basically go home to the state of Mississippi, you certainly could have looked in a bunch of directions to help you kind of get where you're supposed to be here at South Carolina, which is competing for the league title, expecting to be in the postseason, and having a shot at getting back to Omaha. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And he didn't have to look very far because he understood. Monty is everything that's right about the world. Monty is a guy who, I've known him a long time. I was 9 years old. My father passed away, and my mom, really needed. I was a baseball player. My mom really needed, for me to find something, and I found it in being a bat boy at the College of Charleston. Monty was on that team, and became kind of like a big brother type thing. But what's more impressive is who he was and what he did then. Monty had kids in college, he had a wife. I'm not going to go into any more of his personal story, but there was much more to it, where he was playing college baseball and he was also working and supporting a family, doing all these things. He turns into one of the best baseball coaches I've ever been around, ever, period, the end. He's absolutely fantastic. He credits everything that he's ever done to Ralph Cibiteri at the College of Charleston and Coach Tanner, who are like fathers to him. And but he's a guy that just knows how to coach. And I can tell you this, he knows how to win at South Carolina. And there is something to that. Shane Beamer's a guy who kind of knows how to win at South Carolina. Monty's first stint in Columbia after being at Spartanburg Methodist, he was very instrumental in bringing a lot of incredibly talented kids to school. Some of them, by the way, who carried over to win national championships under Coach Tanner with Coach Holbrook and those guys. And so, there is immediate juice kind of inserted into the program. And if you think about it, Phil, like, it's really hard for a head coach to call the guy who is a beloved son of the program, who just swept you up the road at Clemson at your right, and say, hey, you want to come coach for me? So that's two men that got together and they were men about it. Monty's like, yeah, I want to be here. Monty was going to go into pro ball, and I want to be here and do this. And Coach Kingston was not too proud to say, this is what's best for our program here at South Carolina. I don't care what type of feedback I get. I don't care what the fans yell from the stands. I don't care about any of that. This guy's best for the University of South Carolina's baseball program, and I'm going to hire him. And, you pair that with, I think that, as long as they can keep their arms healthy, they've got a bunch of arms, and they get some things worked out early in the season. It's a pretty underwhelming, or I would say unimpressive non-league schedule, with the exception of Clemson early on. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities to kind of pile up some wins and get some momentum going, kind of start to figure yourself out a little bit before you really hit SEC play. So I think they have a chance. Will they? I don't know. It could, they could start 0-11. I don't think they will, but they could.
Let's hope not. Yeah, right. But you don't have like that big Texas series like we've seen the past couple of years kind of looming in front of you. Yeah, you got the one up here, one at home, and one in Greenville, set up for Clemson again, I think this year, if I'm correct, right? That's how we're doing this. Yeah, one neutral site and then home and home.
Yeah,
like always. Yeah. But looking at the schedule, that's about your most daunting task before we get into conference play. And I don't know. I think there's just a lot of I think one of the things that people kind of hold against Kingston, even though it's not really his fault. I mean, albeit like production on the field, obviously, is the biggest thing that people can point to a coach like that. But with Landon Powell being so successful up here and being still so close to the program, and I'll admit I was one that thought that maybe it's time Ray, tries to go after Landon and bring him in after last season. But I know from my outside looking in perspective that bringing Monty Lee back made me feel a lot better about, not making that move, because I know, from what I've heard that Monty's heart's in the program and he will, like you said, and have attested to, has made an immediate impact inside.
Well, we've talked about this with basketball and football already today, Phil. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, people can argue about basketball and football all they want to. I'm going to tell you something. Anybody that's been around baseball at all since Ray Tanner arrived at South Carolina, and even before that, but certainly when Coach Tanner arrived, starting with Drew Meyer, if you are a great player in this state, you played baseball at South Carolina. There were a few deflections that went to Clemson, but not many. Mostly, if you could play and you were good enough to get on that level, you went to Carolina. Coach Tanner shut that down real quick when he came here, and now they would go out, of course. I mean, you look at the national championship teams, and a lot of their best players were not from the state of South Carolina. A lot of them were, like Scott Wingo and Michael Roth and Matt Price and so on and so forth. But, so the last few years has been very unimpressive. Now, I know people can argue about whether, the state's been as good as it has been since, the guys that I know well, like the Smokes of the world, came through and whatever. You can argue that all you want. That's fine. You still have got to sign the best players in your state. Monty was doing that, and then a lot of the rest of them have left the state because a lot of these kids actually grew up Gamecock fans.
Right.
As much as they love Monty, didn't want to go to Clemson, and they're ended up at Louisville and Virginia and NC State and Coastal and Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt and God knows where else. And that's stopping with Monty Lee being back in Columbia. That's over. If you can play, you look for these kids to start committing to the Gamecocks again, which is, I think, most important. So, we'll see how it all works out. It's January the 9th, so we got a long ways to go. And I don't want to fill up the whole program with baseball stuff, but certainly is something. Craig, have you been to the ballpark here in North Augusta? I've driven by it. I have not been inside of that ballpark. He says he wished that Carolina would play Clemson their one game. I know that they've bid for it. I'm not sure whatever happened with the process. I would like to see it moved a little bit more as well. Certainly enjoy it being in Charleston. It is hard on the players. It's a lot of travel over the weekend. But I certainly would rather see a 3-game series with a neutral site as a fan than the old days when we used to play 4 Wednesday games throughout the season. You didn't get the best arms on the field. If you did, it was just for work. So I like it being much more competitive like this, but maybe they'll get over there. We'll kind of see. 12:40, Phil, final timeout. We'll take that now. And then when we return, we'll wrap up with some football, take any more questions that we can take. And there's a national championship to be played tonight. So what are everybody's predictions? Will TCU pull off an upset here? Can they pull off an upset?
Who knows?
I think they can. But I'll give you my prediction if anybody cares. I don't know why you would. But more importantly, I'll tell you who I'm pulling for when we get back here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is Pitcher Noah Hall. If you want some delicious food for your event, I suggest visiting nanasporch.com today to find out what they all have to offer. It's really good Southern cuisine based out of Charlotte, my hometown. I hope you guys go check it out. Go Cox and go Nanas.
I've been expecting you, Mr. Powers.
Sometime in the near future, there's a good chance I'll move back to my home area of the upstate of South Carolina. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody I would use to help me find a new home except Cindy Bass-Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane, located in my hometown of Spartanburg, Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a diehard Gamecock. 864-414-5271. Give Cindy a call. 864-414-5271. A proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hey, Mo Kaba here from the Carolina Gamecocks. You're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. The show is presented to you by Express Sunrooms. Y'all know the drill. Give John a call, 803-446-4662, to talk about anything outdoors for your home. And yeah, national championship tonight, JB. We finally made it. It's, it's the bittersweetest day of the year, in that, we have to say goodbye to college football, at least watching it on TV. For another 7 months. So you think TCU's got a shot? I think so too. I don't know if we're going to get the same Georgia team that looked like they were just absolutely shocked by Ohio State the other week. I think they're going to be a bit more dialed in. But I'm not counting the Frogs out. I think they have an excellent shot of doing it. I think they do end up coming short, though. And I will not predict them to win. Not that, like you said, anybody cares what we think about predictions or this game. But I'd love to see them pull it off, man. I'd love to see them pull it off for a number of reasons. I think it's good that, a non-power, brand gets in there and does well. I think it destroys what I consider to be the myth of blue chip recruiting, and reinforces the fact that if you make good decisions in the portal, you can ascend to the highest of highs.
Yeah, I think so. And, for the game itself, a lot of the conversation has been on the tailback, who's going to more than likely probably be out again. They're going to look at him and evaluate him in pregame, but I don't think he's going to play. And everybody's, oh God, if he can't play, what is it? Well, he didn't. I mean, the dude didn't play much against Michigan. And the DeMercado kid, the second string tailback, came in and had 17 carries for 150 yards. Michigan was giving up like 90 yards a game on the ground this season, and TCU ran for almost 270. Okay, so I think it's, they've got good players and they're hot. They believe. I also think they've got a pretty good system. So I'm not pulling for Georgia. This is not one of those beat your chest, SEC. Forget all that crap. No way. I don't like them. I don't like when they win. No. I want to see TCU win the national championship. I hope they do. I think it's close, but I think Georgia ends up winning. I think it's closer than people think. but I think Georgia probably ends up winning, I don't know, 37-28 or something like that.
Yeah. If I were, a betting man, I'd say TCU covers, but Georgia ultimately wins the game.
Yeah.
Although I hate that because it's like you just don't. I mean, my goodness, the two closest Power 5 schools to the one that we all love so much have, risen to this national prominence again, both of them. Yeah. And now you're having to compete against that. It's just, worst case scenario if you're a South Carolina fan right now. To see Georgia win another one. You don't want that.
No, I'd rather not see them in the playoff. I'd rather not actually see them just ever again. But we have to, unfortunately, because they're just over that border over there. I couldn't help though but think coming into the game the other day about what if we had a 12-team playoff right now, and specifically to South Carolina, how close would the Gamecocks have been? Well, we know that after the college football playoff rankings were published before bowl season, South Carolina was 19th.
Yep.
So not from the ranking side of it necessarily, but how close on the win side of, like, had they gone through the year, Carolina finished 8-4 in the regular season. Say they beat Missouri. Where would they have been? Would they have been knocking on the door of this thing based on the structure of what it's going to be like with the, 5 highest ranked conference champions or 6 highest ranked conference champions plus your at-larges and this and the other, down the road here. Because Carolina, like, if you want to really be positive, like you want to get your week started right here on a Monday, think about it this way. All right. Like you don't want to work the next 5 days and all that, right? You want to have some mojo. Is Carolina ascending? And there's other teams like this, but this is a Gamecock show, so we're going to talk about the Gamecocks. Are they ascending like right on track, like correlating with the expansion of the college football playoff? Like, are they a team that as they continue to take steps, Phil, that you're going to look up 2024 and go, and now you all of a sudden got a 12-team playoff, and you look back 2 years ago and you're like, oh, they went 8-5 that year, and they've just gotten better, and they've just gotten better.
Just continue to improve, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. And I think, when I frame it in terms of this season, I think if you beat Florida, you're probably in with the way you finished, because it's picked by people, right? So it's like, it's not a perfect system. There's no algorithm in the back. As much as we want to kid ourselves, it's very subjective, and optics mean a lot. And I think had you not dropped the game at Florida, you still could have lost Missouri, and you win out at that point with 2 huge wins at the end of the year. I think you sneak in.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, actually, that's an interesting point, much more so than Missouri because of how you finished. Had you gone on the road to a place like the Swamp, and you're probably right about that. I mean, I also think that, Dowell Loggins said it in his press conference, and so he clearly was just a coach at another school. He wasn't even the media. There was a lot of people out there that thought early in the season, even with Spencer Rattler, they're not very good. So it's almost like Carolina had a 12-round comeback. What they did to finish the season. I think there was just a lot of people in the country that just didn't think. And I know we snuck into the rankings kind of, when we got to 7-2, I think it was, or somewhere in there. Or whatever it was. I can't remember what the record was, 6-3, whatever it was. And it kind of snuck in at 25 and then fell back out. But there was just a lot of people that just truly didn't believe. They just really didn't.
No.
But so it kind of backs up what you're saying, though. Like the Florida game, it would have come in at the right time. If you had a 12-team playoff, that's really going to get interesting when you have 12, because you're going to have some teams that are like, let's say they're 9-3 and they're hot at the right time. 9-3 is a pretty common record in college football. So like 12-0 isn't.
Right.
11-1, 12-1, like with 4, it is what it is. If you're 13-0, you're in. I mean, if you're 12-1, you're probably in. There's going to be a lot of 9-3s, Phil. So like you're going to have 9-3 whoever, who's playing hot, who got hot at the right time of the year. Like, let's say to your example, you win the game in the Swamp, you beat the hell out of Tennessee, you go win a game in the Upstate against the top 5 Clemson team, and you're 9-3. And then you're going to have the team that was 9-1 and ranked 4th in the nation that lost their last 2 games. I don't know, Florida State or something like that, and they finished 9-3. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be
interesting, because there's gonna be teams that play their way in at the end of the season, and then there are gonna be brands that get in because their record is equivalent to the team that played its way in. So that may not necessarily be as deserving, but you're going to end up with a situation like, and I can't really frame college football in terms of NFL, but I was so happy to see the Lions win last night, right? And I wanted them to make the playoffs so bad, just because, it's like, I think that's a team that nobody would have wanted to see. So you could be that team that nobody really wants to see. In South Carolina this year, I think, if we had the 12-team playoff, you pick that draw up, even if they come in as a 12 seed, and you're like, ooh, man, I don't know if I want them coming in here. You don't want to be it's like, ooh, I don't want to play them right now.
Yeah, as long as you don't have a bunch of opt-outs going into the game. I think Sonder makes a good point. If it was a 12-team playoff, he mentioned there's one in there that I'm going to circle. If it was a 12-team playoff, teams like Clemson, Utah, and K-State would have gotten in, would have made the postseason a completely different conversation. He's not wrong. And so, like, Clemson didn't make it, and Carolina fans take so much pride in that. Like, we kept you out. But they wouldn't have kept them out more than likely, even had they beat them in that 12th game. Clemson probably still would have snuck in, and so would Tennessee, for that matter. So it will be a different conversation. There's no question. But to your point about the whole Florida thing, that still would have probably added some zazz to South Carolina.
I just think that, outside of like major brands that, you'd get in just because of the momentum you had, even at 9-3.
Yeah. I think one of the arguments that I've always tried to make, and I've never really been successful at it, I probably won't be here either, even though maybe it's change people's thinking a little bit. Because it is coming. A 12-team playoff is coming. Like, it's going to happen. There is no more debate about this or not. But like, we've heard it continuously we didn't hear about it this year because TCU's in the national championship, but generally every year we hear the same thing, Phil. Oh my gosh, there was just one team that could win the national championship. All these other these playoff games weren't even any good. There's not even 3 or 4 teams that are good enough to be in the playoff now. Why do we need to make a 12-team playoff? Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, you can't think about the now. Like, you can't create parity in out the sport without the platform to do so. You just can't do it. So, like, if you fast forward, and let's not use South Carolina here. Let's use Ole Miss, because Lane Kiffin has been really good. Okay, they've been 9-3, 10-2, 9-3, 10-2, 8-4, whatever. But they've been right on the fringe, right? So let's say that Ole Miss has been in the playoff for 3 of the last 4 years in a 12-team playoff, and who knows? They've won a couple of games. They've made their way down to the quote Final Four of football, or whatever you want to call it. Ole Miss all of a sudden is a power in the sport by virtue of how you're talking about them. They've been in the damn thing every year, and they're contending and competing for a national championship because you're in the playoff. All right, so you all of a sudden have become one of the elite in college football. Like, if you want to create some type of parity, whatever that is, whether it's parity at the Power 5 level and they break off or they keep it all together, I don't know what they're going to do. But like, whether you want to create parity, if you want to create parity, you have to expand it. Like, that's the only way to do it. You've got to give more people a chance to hang banners that say college football playoff participant or Final 8 or Final 4 or whatever it is, to be able to recruit, to sign players in the whole 9 yards. So like for teams like South Carolina or an NC State or an Oklahoma State, who's always been kind of close but no cigar, UCLA, teams like that, like across the country, who are kind of like, hey, we're close, we just can't get there. When you have a 12-team playoff, if you crack into it 3 or 4 times over the course of 6, 7, or 8 years, you just happen to have a good run, you're now all of a sudden considered amongst the elite.
Yeah, you're top program in the nation at that point because you're a contender every year for the playoffs, and if you don't think TCU is going to go out there and pump the hell out of that in the portal, after tonight, regardless of the score, you're crazy, and they're in the perfect situation too because the two biggest brands in their conference are peacing out, and and now they're like, look, we are perfectly primed now to be the premier Big 12 school, right?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Does anybody here think that TCU actually wins the game tonight? Anybody? Have you seen any predictions that say they're going to win?
I have not. I think I'm seeing everything Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Does anybody think there's Mayor? Hey, Mayor. I love Meredith Taylor.
What's up, Mayor? Kreger said TCU 34-31. Throwing it out there. All right.
Is there anybody that thinks it's, I think I saw one. Brian said 49-17 Georgia. I just don't see that. 32-point win with TCU, the way that they've seemingly all year, like just all of a sudden you like blink your eyes and there they are again. Like, how do you get rid of these cats?
Even though, Jamie, it's like, even though I don't think it'll go like that, if it were, like a blowout, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm really not. Not with Georgia's defense and their ability to throw out huge offensive performances. And let's be honest, TCU's defense is not, Alabama of years past, and so if Georgia's clicking, then it could get ugly. But something tells me that they're going to be ready. This team is going to be ready to come in there and do something, but just misses it.
There's old 76. He says 41-38 TCU. Yeah, it's the over under in the game 67. I seem to think that they're gonna get over that.
Yeah, like take the over.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks out there. I think a lot of people they're looking at the Georgia defense and they're thinking stay underneath this thing. I don't. I think that they're gonna get over it, and we'll see. I mean, I just hope it's a. Yeah, here comes Mr. Toe the Line. I just hope it's a good game.
Yeah, I just want it to be a good game, competitive.
Yeah. I just want everybody to get along and have fun. I just hope they'll have a good time. And
we're just selfishly, pulling for Georgia to not blow them out.
Yeah.
Please, Lord. No. Not that I ever ask for anything, outcomes from the upstairs, but no. Yeah. It's better for South Carolina, I think, if the game is close, even if Georgia does win. But it's not good for South Carolina if Georgia blows TCU out of the water, regardless of all the SEC chants that you're going to hear. Because hey, as the conference does well, it lifts the brand, but you don't want your next door neighbor being the guy that lifts the brand.
Yeah. Over under on 100 dog fans locked in a prison cell somewhere tomorrow morning when they wake up in California.
Oh, I'm taking the over on that. Yeah,
me too.
Stay over. Yeah, I'll be surprised if my uncle and cousin don't, call me on the phone barking this evening.
That's never surprising.
No.
If you know anything about Georgia fans, it's what they do. I'm a big believer in that. I've seen it with my own two eyes a lot. Yeah. I've been barked at by men, women, grandparents, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of strange, but all right. Well, certainly fun today, and hopefully we'll get JC back in here tomorrow. He is feeling a little bit under the weather, so we'll do what we can do. If we got to step back into the chair and have some fun, we'll certainly do that. As long as Phil will have me back.
You're welcome anytime, JD. Anytime.
You're the Inside the Gamecocks, the show gatekeeper. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, nobody gets on the screen without me sending you an email. Yeah. So maybe I'll go rogue one day and just be like, the Phil Show, Phil Show.
Yeah, you're the Gamecock guard. So if somebody's not paying you off, they're not getting on.
I don't know. I think Steve Fink is better at that than I am. Yeah,
I love Steve Fink. One of the greats, if not the best. SID. He is so good at what he does, man. Certainly appreciate everybody today. Hopefully you all enjoy the ball game tonight between Georgia and TCU. And in some way, shape, or form, Inside the Gamecocks show will return tomorrow, as usual, at 11 a.m. For Phil, I'm JB, not JC. We'll see you then.